March 3, 1971, 11:32 p.m. Frank Lucas walked into a basement club on 116th and Lenox with a gray metal briefcase chained to his wrist. Turntables lounge. 44 people inside. Whiskey breath. Smoke haze. Isaac Hayes on the jukebox. And two men sure they'd beaten the king of Harlem. One had been skimming Frank's money. The other had been taking meetings with the Italians. Both thought they'd gotten away with it. They hadn't. Frank didn't say a word when he came down the stairs. He never needed to. Silence walked in ahead of him. Dice froze midair. Glasses stopped halfway to lips. The bartender's hand slipped off the register. Frank went straight to the back. Corner table. One low bulb above it, throwing a yellow circle of light on scarred wood and cigarette burns. He set the briefcase down in the center of that circle, unclipped the chain from his wrist, snapped both latches open. Inside, $100,000. Neat stacks, 50s and 100s. Bank straps still tight. Enough to buy a house in Queens. Enough to move a family out of Harlem forever. Enough to make a desperate man stupid. Nobody breathed. Frank looked around the room, slow and patient, counting faces, not dollars. 60 seconds, he said quietly. No need to raise his voice. Every person heard him. Anybody in here can take this money. All of it. No questions, no bullets, no payback. 60 seconds. He checked his watch. Starting now. Then he did the most terrifying thing a man like Frank Lucas could do. Nothing. He just sat down and lit a cigarette. To understand those 60 seconds, you have to understand who Frank Lucas was in 1971. He wasn't just another Harlem gangster. He was new money with old Harlem rules. The man who went around the 5 families, straight to the Golden Triangle, and came back with bricks so pure they didn't need a logo. Blue magic. He built his own pipeline and cut the Italians out of their favorite meal. $1 million a week. That's what the street said he was pulling. 7 days, one Sunday to the next. But big money brings small thieves. And small thieves, if you let them live inside your house, become cracks in the foundation. 3 weeks before the briefcase hit the table, Frank's numbers man, everybody called him Books, walked into the brownstone on Riverside with a stack of ledgers and a look that said trouble. "We're light," Books said, spreading notebooks across the dining table. 78,400 and some change. Frank didn't flinch. "From where?" 125th Street runs, Books said, tapping a red-circled line. 3 days in a row. Same story every time. "We got robbed. No bodies, no cops, no witnesses. Just gone." Frank hated that word. Gone. "Who's on those bags?" he asked. "Quick's nephew," Books said. "Darnell. Young. Talks fast. Spends faster." That was the first lie. The second came from a mouth Frank had respected for years. Raymond Quick Lewis. Old Harlem. He'd run numbers when Bumpy Johnson still walked Lenox like it was his private boulevard. Frank called him in. "Your nephew's leaking my money," Frank said. No hello. No coffee. "Every root he touches comes back short." Quick shifted his weight. "Kids make mistakes, Frank. He's green. He'll learn. He loves you. Talks about you like—" "Stop," Frank said. Quick stopped. Frank didn't shout, didn't threaten. He just watched Quick's eyes dance everywhere but his. That was all he needed. Darnell wasn't just sloppy, he was shielded, which meant he was stealing with confidence, which meant that somewhere behind him, someone thought Frank Lucas's rules were negotiable. And then another threat appeared. A bartender from a spot on Amsterdam slipped Frank a plate number. Parking boy on 126th added a time. A doorman on the Upper East Side quietly mentioned seeing Darnell in an Italian joint he had no business in. One name kept coming up. Genovese. Darnell wasn't just taking from Frank. He was talking to men downtown who wanted a piece of Harlem back. Now the stakes weren't 78,000. The stakes were everything. Frank could have done what every small-time boss does. Back room. 2 punches. 1 bullet. Harbor at midnight. Problem gone. But Frank wasn't a small-time boss. He didn't just remove problems. He turned them into warnings. 11:33 p.m. Turntables lounge. The briefcase sat open like a dare. 44 people. Bouncers, runners, policy men, bagmen. 2 city workers Frank owned on the weekends. And in a new leather jacket at the bar, chain around his neck, eyes locked on the money, Darnell. Beside him, trying not to look like he was watching his own blood drown, stood Quick. 40 seconds left. You could hear the ice shifting in glasses. You could hear the ceiling fan clicking overhead. You could hear hearts. Somebody in the corner whispered, "He's lost his mind." Somebody else said, "Touch that money. You're dead before you cross Lenox." They were both wrong. Frank wasn't testing greed. He was measuring understanding. Who got how this world worked and who still thought it was a movie. 30 seconds. A young hustler named Lionel turned sideways, muscles coiled. Every man in the room saw it. 1 foot half a step forward, eyes on the briefcase, future in his head. Frank's eyes slid over and pinned him. No words, no gesture, just that flat, quiet stare. Lionel froze, legs suddenly heavy, future gone. 20 seconds. Frank blew out smoke slow. He wasn't watching the money. He was watching two faces. Darnell. Quick. Darnell's leg was bouncing like a drum. His fingers counted invisible bills in the air. His eyes kept cutting to the door, to his uncle, back to Frank. Quick stared at the floor, the way old men do when they've already made the wrong choice and are waiting to see the price. 10 seconds. If Darnell ran now, he died with a bullet in his back. If he stayed, he died in front of everyone. 9, 8, 7. Nobody touched the money. 6, 5, 4. Lionel exhaled. The bartender blinked. A waiter shifted his weight. 3, 2, 1. Frank closed the briefcase. 2 soft, final clicks. "Good," he said. "Now I know who understands math." "Darnell," Frank said. Still seated, still calm. "Come here." Darnell didn't move. His throat worked. His lips parted. Nothing came out. 2 of Frank's men, Harold and Spivey, stepped off the wall behind him. No guns drawn. They didn't need them. The message was clear. Darnell walked. It wasn't far, 10 steps, but it felt like a life sentence. He stopped at the edge of the light circle, the briefcase between them, Frank on one side of the table, king of Harlem, Darnell on the other shaking in a borrowed jacket he'd bought with stolen money. "You took $78,000 from me," Frank said. It wasn't a question. "I was going to put it back," Darnell whispered. "I just needed—" "Don't lie," Frank said. The room tensed, not at his words, at the way he cut the sentence in half like it offended the air. "You think I care about $78,000? Frank asked. "I spend more than that on dogs and bad decisions. This," he tapped the table, "this isn't about money." He leaned back, studying him like a problem on a chalkboard. "You didn't just steal paper," Frank said. "You stole certainty. You stole the idea that my word is law. You stole from the fear in this room that keeps everybody alive." Darnell swallowed hard. "I messed up. You sold my roots to the Italians," Frank added, voice still almost gentle. "You met with Genovese men on the east side. You told them where my bags move. You thought you were playing both sides." He let that hang. There it is, someone thought. The part nobody was saying out loud. Quick closed his eyes. Frank opened the briefcase again. He didn't take out all the money, just one stack, then another, then a partial third. $12,000, Frank said. "Roughly what you had sitting under your mattress last week." He slid the stacks toward Darnell. "Take it." Darnell just stared. "What?" "Take it," Frank repeated. "You risked your uncle's name for that. You risked this whole room for that. At least get to hold it." Hands shaking, Darnell grabbed the money. For half a second, relief flashed across his face. He thought he'd been forgiven. "Feels good?" Frank asked quietly. "Feels like a future." Darnell nodded, tears glassing his eyes. "Don't thank me yet," Frank said. He reached into his jacket and pulled out something small and black. Not a gun. A lighter. He set it down between them. "What the Italians offered you?" Frank asked. "Was it this much? More? Did they promise you a bar like this? A car? A house for your mother?" Silence. Heavy, ugly, honest. "That's what I thought," Frank said. He flicked the lighter. A clean blue flame popped up, steady as his voice. "Here's your deal now," Frank said. "You're going to take that $12,000. You're going to feel it. Every bill, every lie, every word you said about me to men who don't belong in Harlem." He nodded toward the flame. "And then you're going to burn it, right here, in front of everyone." The whole room went rigid. Frank had killed before, quietly, efficiently. Everybody knew that. But this was something else. "Frank, please," Darnell said, voice cracking. "I'll pay you back. You already did," Frank said. "This is interest." He didn't raise the lighter, didn't move it closer. He just waited. 10 seconds. 15. Nobody spoke up for Darnell. Not his uncle, not his friends, not the men who'd laughed with him at this same bar 3 nights earlier, because they all understood the rule Bumpy Johnson had lived by before Frank. You don't step between a king and an example. Finally, Darnell picked up the lighter. He peeled off the top few bills with fingers that wouldn't stay still. He raised them to the flame. It caught slow. Edges curling black, green ink twisting, President's face melting into ash. The smell of burning money rolled through the room. Thick, bitter, wrong. $50, $100, $500. Frank didn't look at the fire. He watched Darnell's eyes. You feel that? Frank asked softly. That's what it feels like when you trade respect for paper. It doesn't last. The first 1,000 disappeared in under a minute. 2,000, 5, 10, $12,000. Gone. Turned to a dark smear on scarred wood. When the last corner of the last bill crumbled into ash, Darnell's hands were empty. He looked smaller, younger, older, everything at once. Frank reached into his inside pocket and pulled out a plain white envelope. He dropped it on top of the burn mark. That's a bus ticket, he said. Philadelphia. Leaves in 2 hours. In there's $300. Not my money, not theirs. Church money. Pastor on 138th owes me a favor. Darnell sounded broken. You're letting me live. Frank's eyes were ice. I'm not letting you live, he said. I'm letting you remember. He leaned forward just enough that Darnell could feel the weight of every word. You're going to walk out of Harlem tonight, Frank said. You're going to take that bus. You're never coming back. Not for a funeral, not for a birthday, not for a woman. When they ask you in Philly why you flinch every time you smell smoke, you tell them a king made you burn everything you betrayed him for. He paused. And when the Italians ask what happened, Frank added, you tell them I knew. I always know. You tell them for every dollar they offer my people, I can afford to burn 10 just to show them who this neighborhood belongs to. Darnell nodded, sobbing quietly. Go, Frank said. Darnell picked up the envelope like it weighed more than the briefcase ever did. He walked to the door. No one looked at him. No one said goodbye. He was a ghost before he left the room. When the door closed behind him, it sounded like a vault. Frank turned to the rest of the club. Now, he said, let's do some real math. He opened the briefcase one last time. 88,000 still inside, silent and obedient. Money comes and goes, Frank said. Respect either stays or it doesn't. You all just watched a man trade his for 12,000. And you watched what I bought with it. He nodded at the charred circle on the tabletop. That's not a burn, he said. That's a scar. On the table, on his name, on anybody who thinks like him. He looked around the room carefully. Tonight, you had 60 seconds, he said. 100,000 sitting right here. None of you touched it. You know why? He tapped his chest. Because you're not afraid of bullets, Frank said. You're afraid of me. No screaming, no threats, just a fact. And you're right to be, he finished. He closed the briefcase. The latches snapped shut like handcuffs. He rechained it to his wrist and walked toward the stairs. At the bottom step, he stopped and turned back. One more thing, Frank said. Tomorrow morning, everybody from 110th to 155th is going to hear about what happened in this room. When they ask if Frank Lucas kills thieves, you tell them, I don't have to. I just make them burn everything they sold me for. Then he went up into the Harlem night. By 9 a.m., the story had already done 3 laps around the neighborhood. Not a rumor, a report. They said Frank chained a briefcase with 100,000 to his wrist, gave a room full of hustlers 60 seconds to steal it. Only one man's hand moved, and it wasn't to grab the money. By noon, 3 other runners who'd been skimming small, 20 here, 50 there, showed up at the brownstone on Riverside. No excuses, no lies, cash in hand. I owe you, each one said. Not I'm sorry. I owe you. The Italians heard too. The message was simple. You can't buy Frank's people, not with money, because he'll burn it. Not with fear, because he owns that too. You can close your hand around a trigger, you can close it around a knife, but there's nothing more dangerous than a man who can make you open that same hand and drop your own future into the fire. That night at Turntable's Lounge proved something the streets never forgot. Anybody can wave a gun, only a king can hand you a lighter and make you strike the match.
Cash in the espresso, newspaper folded twice. Ring on the table, one look decides the price. Back room in the pizzeria, red sauce on the stove. Briefcase, rosary, saints watching from the wall. We run the night in velvet suits, silk ties, heavy truths. Family first, then the loot. Concrete shoes and polished boots. We bless the gun, we kiss the ring. Toast to every quiet thing. Sunday prayers, Monday sin. Once you're in, you're never leaving. You're never leaving. Yeah. Lincoln by the curbside, engine softly ticks. Cousin in the driver's seat, hands that never flinch. Record player spinning, crooner on a groove. Don't ask questions if you wanna leave this room. We run the night in velvet suits, silk ties, heavy truth. Family first, then the loot. Concrete shoes and polished boots. We bless the gun, we kiss the ring. Quiet thing, Sunday prayers, Monday sin. Once you're in, you're never leaving. Never leaving. Dice in the alley, church bells far away. One more envelope keeps the wolves at bay. Say my name in the dark. Yeah, ash in the espresso, newspaper folded twice. Ring on the table, one look decides the price. Back room in the pizzeria, red sauce on the stove. Briefcase, rosary, saints watching from the wall. We run the night in velvet suits, silk ties, heavy truth. Family first, then the loot. Concrete shoes and polished boots. We bless the gun, we kiss the ring. Toast to every quiet thing. Sunday prayers, Monday sin. Once you're in, you're never leaving. You're never leaving. Lincoln by the curbside, engine softly ticks. Cousin in the driver's seat, hands that never flinch. Record player spinning, crooner on a groove. Don't ask questions if you wanna leave this room. Then the loot, concrete shoes and polished boots. We bless the gun, we kiss the ring. Toast to every quiet thing. Sunday prayers, Monday sin. Once you're Dice in the alley, church bells far away. One more envelope keeps the wolves at bay. Say my name in the dark.